All right, guys. So this is the first ever episode of Lattes with Lee. Now, because we're recording this in the evening, I've got my Agents of Shield mug here, and I've got some sparkling ice drink. So no latte this time, but we'll work on that. I'll try and come up with something. Maybe I'll be really brave and I'll try some decaf or something.
I don't drink coffee past 2 p.m. So
And this right here is my good friend Mr. Daniel Fisher. And tell us about that shirt you got there, man.
this is Norse Foundry. This is a dice company out of Fort Myers, Florida, that make stone dice. They have metal dice. They have the like what you would normally see. The I wouldn't say lower end. They were one of the first companies to make metal RPG dice. So these are the zinc dice that are coated. Um, they're real. I love playing with those. I played a lot of well, I would say Dungeons and Dragons role playing games. So and I use a lot of Norse Foundry's product. The the best dice that they've got that I love. Well, in my opinion, the best dice are these guys here. And these are, and I've been coloring in the numbers as I drop it. These are precision aluminum dice. Okay, let me tell you about these real quick. They each number, first of all, it's machined out of aircraft grade aluminum, and each number has the same amount of material moved from each face of the die, so it is completely balanced.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, sometimes you kind of wonder some of these other metal dice. I mean, they seem like they'd be instead of rolling them, seem like it'd be better off if I just dropped a bunch at the end of a sock and use it like for self defense. Like it'd
Well,
be more effective for that than rolling.
yeah, and I've seen those factories and how those people are treated down there in some of those companies, and it's not pretty, man. So
Hmm. Well, so you and I both share, I guess you say, the hobby, if you will, interest of 3D printing, right?
uh-huh.
What do you have? I know I've got an Ender 3 Pro, but I don't remember what you said you use.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So the first printer I ever got was this little thing from Hobby King, and I burned it up in a month. And so I sent it back, and they gave me all my money back, and it was too small because I could only print one Dragon Lock tile from Fat Dragon at a time. So I got something a little bit bigger, and so I decided to go with a something that was based on the I3 setup, the Prussia I3 at the time.
Oh
But
yeah.
it wasn't a Prussia, but the whole concept of the rep wrap is where I was headed towards, and so well, that wasn't good. Are you still there?
Yeah.
My computer and everything just shut down. Okay, it went to sleep. I don't know why. Um, Usually it doesn't do this during conference calls. So anyway, I actually went with a first generation ANET A8. Okay, now this printer gets a lot of bad rap because it is a cheap printer. I paid $225 for this printer. Now, what happened was this printer got cloned so many times after this first generation came out that the cloners got the price of the printer down to almost $150. Well, because they were using cheaper electronics and they weren't doing a really good job soldering and things like that, these printers were catching fire. But everybody blamed it on ANET because it was the ANET design. And I'm not sure if ANET had any hand in any of that. But
Well, I mean, if you should be thinking at this point, I mean, we've seen 3D printer prices rise and fall, but I
yeah,
mean, if you think you're paying $150 for a quality 3D printer, I think the fact that the printer is burning up on you,
yeah.
that might be the least of your worries. You probably ought to hand your finances over to somebody else.
Well, okay. So then, I've used that printer now for, I've had it for almost 5 years and it's still trucking. Okay. And if I'm, know I need something to print really quickly, I throw it on that printer and I can get it printed out really quickly. I won't have any issues at all. So my second printer was a longer orange tin resin printer. And I just got that last year. That's what I printed this little rust monster on here.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's the only thing I'll print miniatures on is this printer. So that it prints really great miniatures. It won't print dice or anything, but it'll print miniatures. Awesome. Um, then for Christmas this year, I bought myself a ANET E16, which is a clone of the Ender Creality CR10S. And I tell you, that guy, I only paid $220 for him. He's my favorite printer in the whole wide world right now. And then ANET just sent me a month ago a ANET ET4, two of them, and they said, here's two ANET ET4s. Hopefully you can get one of them working because they were returns, and they give them to me for free because I'm part of a program with them now where I help them on the back end come up with new things and help push the product a little bit. And so I've got that one going, and he is actually doing pretty good. I printed part of this dragon on him. So I did this. I was showing this to you earlier. Sorry if the glare gets to you a
Yeah,
little
and you
bit.
said that took what, a few days, right?
Yeah, and this was every time I have a first print, it's garbage. I have to tune the printer in for on certain files. And so this was done. You had the headpiece, the neck piece, the body, a piece of the tail, another piece of the tail, the connector pieces, and the wings. And then I started getting a lot of shifts, and that happens sometimes when your steppers drivers start heating up really bad, or your belt tension is really loose. And so I had just recently loosened that belt and didn't tighten it back enough. So I'm going to tighten it back up and try to print it again. But I'm also going to print it a piece at a time. I was actually printing the entire dragon all at once because Fat Dragon, the way they design stuff is it doesn't need any supports. And that the E16, the bed on it is so big, I could print all of this in one go. But
Wow.
so yeah, and so
And so for those, I'm going to move the camera around here in just a second, but for those who don't know how a 3D printer works, first off, let me just say that no matter how much money you're spending or what model or brand you get, this is not running down to Staples and buying an HP LaserJet printer. You are not just going to slap some paper or some toner in there and be good to go. It's when I, and you know me, I mean, we're both IT guys. And so
yeah.
when I first got my Ender 3, I opened the box and I looked at all the stuff in there, all the parts and everything. And I almost started to pack it back up because I was like, what did I get myself into? My first thought was, oh man,
Okay.
I have no idea what I'm doing. But I will admit though that thankfully, no thanks to Creality. So I have a Creality's Ender 3 Pro, and their instruction sheet was just sectioned off into some squares with pictures, and that was it. There were no words, so you had to look at like picture 1 and picture 2, and you had to see like, what's different. But oh, I see, they added that part. Okay, and I mean that was literally, so I mean I had to really dig up some YouTube videos, but just to give an idea, and I've got mine running right now on something here. So I've got a little thing running, and the blue stuff are some modded parts I've got thanks to a good friend of mine named Heath Coker that runs a good thing called Swampworks Printing. So I've got this kind of galaxy red sort of thing printing, and I might need to just turn that a little bit. There we go. I need to
So
redo that spool. I've got it on backwards. But anyway, so that's running right now. So what you guys may have heard Daniel talking about is the belt. So this little bed right here, there's a belt that helps it actually move back and forth. There's actually some really cool guys from printermods.com that have a mod where you can actually do like a direct movement without a belt. I have not been that brave, but that's this belt right here. So if this is loose and this thing isn't moving right, because what you guys may not realize is you see that thing right there printing out, and that's sort of a reddish version of this right here. This is what it will be when it's done. But the way that it works is it lays down layers of an object. Literally, we're talking not even a whole millimeter at a time. I mean, we're talking tenths of a millimeter at a time or less, layer by layer, building it up with basically melted down plastic of some type or another. But that's kind of what it is. And you've got three axes here that it operates on. And I'm You might actually notice, Daniel, I've got this thing hanging down here. I've had this I had this really cool mod that I had that gives me these 24-volt LED
Yeah.
strips that go in the railing. And
Okay.
the
I'll say
unfortunate
something
thing
really
is,
cool real quick. If you see how bright it is, this is my paint desk where I paint miniatures.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Show
It's the
the
same strips.
oh, you got the yeah. So
Yeah.
so I've got those, and it was all good to go. And I think I even posted pictures on my Facebook page. It was good to go for about 2 minutes, and then there was like a loud noise and a big bright spark. I was like, oh crap, no.
Yep. I've been there.
Because this thing's wired into my printer power supply. So I was like, thankfully, I opted for the model with a cutoff switch.
Yes.
So it literally, like, the wire just like shorted. Like, yeah, you can see it's like burned itself through. So Printer Mods did send me another one, but I think the guy must have forgot that I said that I had a cutoff switch on there, because the cutoff switch plugs in between the piece that attaches to your power supply and the strip. And in order for that to work, the strip's got to have what we would call a female connection, so to
Yeah.
speak. Um, and with the replacement that I just got today, that was all excited. I got home, barely took my work badge off, and I was like, "Oh boy!" Um, it is. There's no way to connect it. I've actually reached out in my neighborhood community, and I'm like, "Can anybody solder? Because it's all the same wiring. We could just, snip that off, and
Wait a
or
minute.
maybe
You're
I'll
in
just
IT
go
and
real
you don't know
janky
how
and
to
get."
solder yet?
I don't even own a soldering iron, man. I
Okay.
just thought
So
maybe I could just cut it off and get some wire
I'm
caps
gonna
and just
I'm
twist
gonna
it
I'm
on there.
gonna tell you a little bit about your ender real quick. Okay. First of all, I'm gonna say I went from that first little Hobby King printer that was straight out of the box printed to an ANET. So when you say you got your box of stuff and you opened it up, you probably had like 6 big pieces. I literally had bags of screws. So I had
Yeah.
mine took over 8 hours put together. But the
Oh,
thing is though, you're going to need a you haven't got into this yet though, but you're going to need a really good soldering iron. Because you're going to have to start replacing eventually the thermistors, which are the sensor that's in the hot end that sees how hot it is. You're going to have to replace those eventually, and then eventually you'll have to replace the hot end because it will burn out.
well, I'm actually looking at getting the micro Swiss hot end all metal.
Yeah, that one's good, but the what I'm talking about, there's the heat canister in there. That actually will go bad after a while, because it keeps heating up, and it'll
Yeah.
eventually burn out. And that'll take about a year, depending on how much you print. And I will also tell you the heat sinks, those are in, they die. And what I mean by that is that you're heating and cooling them up so much that eventually it's not going to want to take heat anymore. And it's just going to take longer to heat up. You're going to have to start replacing those. That's why I tell everybody that gets into 3D printing that you buy this one device, and it's awesome because you're now able to do all this really cool stuff. But you need to also understand that you're getting into something that needs a lot more maintenance than getting an inkjet
Oh
cartridge.
yeah. Well, and I mean, just like with anything else in this community or in this hobby, it's a learning process. I mean, there's so much that I have learned to do with this printer that I didn't even know was a thing.
Yeah.
Um, I have also looked at some great tutorials on swapping out my motherboard on here and adding in a touchscreen so I can do away with that annoying little
Quick wheel.
that
Yeah.
little knob dial. Yeah, that drives me nuts. I'm like, I want a touchscreen.
The 3D, I think it's the 3D Studio is the company. They actually make a replacement board uh, that will take. I can get it. You can get it. It's fine. I've actually already modded my software for my E16 up to their software, so it pretty much does everything that I need it to do. That
I
there's
mean,
that.
I've definitely learned some lessons the hard
Yeah.
way. I mean, a while back I tried to print this tank thing that just kind of.
Oh, wait. Hold on. This was one of the first attempts at printing 40K stuff for me, and I just found it the other day.
Oh wow! Look at that.
And you
Oh,
see
looks
how
nice.
bad This how bad my layering is on that.
Yeah, there's some. Oh man, there's some chunks in there.
Yeah, man, it was rough. I mean, that was when I was first learning to 3D print. I mean, I still play with it. I play with proxies all the time. So,
Well, I mean, I
um,
think now I've got mine down to the point now where the biggest thing is because I've only got about 6 different spools of filament here. One of them I actually just got. I wish I had a picture of it, but I actually printed a vase for my mom for Mother's Day out of this kind of filament, and it's actually
yeah,
almost like a not sure how I'd say it's almost like a translucent fuchsia slash
yeah.
violet. But I've only got about 6 rolls, but I have noticed even with what I use PLA. I haven't really touched anything else yet.
I'll
But
tell
I've
you,
noticed that
PLA.
some brands and some types really vary. I mean, I've
Yeah.
got some stuff it's almost a 10 to 15 degree difference as far as temperature wise on the nozzle. Like what really works to get it down there, right?
So, you'll notice that first of all, I'll tell you for a turnkey type printing solution, stick with PLA or PLA plus. I've been messing around with. I've messed around with ABS. I mess around with PETG. One time I did mess around with some stuff called Anforma from Color Fab, and that's
Hmm.
actually produced here locally where I live at our plastics plant that's right across the street from my house. And it about killed my printer because I couldn't get it off the print bed. I had to destroy the glass bed just to, I had to pop the glass bed off and get a new one because I couldn't get it off. The but PLA is your best. Now, I will tell you some things about PLA. A lot of people don't realize PLA is compostable plastic, which means that it can compost and biodegrade. So, therefore, it's better for the environment if you have a composter. There is a few things you have to do. You have to chunk it up and mix it in, keep your temperatures up on your compost pile, but it'll eventually go back. It's made out of lactic acid or sugar.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, man, that's crazy. What?
If you got an ants problem in your home, and I learned this because I had an ant problem last year, and you have unpainted PLA out, they will eat it because it's made of mostly sugars. And they go for it. I don't know what it is. I mean, we can't taste it, but they can taste the sugar in it, and they start eating the plastic. So, and it's hydrophilic, so it absorbs water, so it'll start to break down over time with access to water. If you ever want anything, it's waterproof. PETG or ABS is your way to go. So,
Yeah, I actually did a little thing with some clear coat on some the other day. Cheap man's temporary short to midterm waterproofing, you know.
here, I'll show you something else I've done. This was with and I'm not finished with this yet. This was with the resin printer, and this is a Predator from 40K, and
Oh yeah, I recognize one of those. Oh.
yeah. So I've got to print another one of these last cannons on the side of it. Sorry, I can't see which way I'm going here. Right here, and the thing to hold it in over here, and then I'm gonna, paint it. Um, this right here took almost an entire bottle of resin,
Wow.
and it sucked. It's heavy, so like I'm thinking like I could pay $20 for a bottle of resin, or I could pay like $40 for the actual model, and
And
not
you know
get.
the quality will be okay if you buy the actual model.
Yeah, that's the thing. And there is this one guy working on a project called the Sprue Project, which means it's model kits that can be printed on your print bed flat and it puts together. It doesn't look great, but it's great for proxies. So, but yeah, I don't print a lot of miniatures that much anymore. It's mostly utility stuff, and like terrain because terrain
Yeah,
is
say I
good for
do a lot of
filament.
terrain.
Tell you this thing right here. I fell in love with this. This paint handle here. I'm not going to mention the company I got it from because I've mentioned them too many times already. But pretty much it's the Dragon Lock right there, and you've got different heads for it, so you can just pop it in right there. And like I found this on their on drive through a few weeks back, and it was $2.
Wow.
and I printed it all in one go. And I actually printed a smaller one. It holds a 28 mil by the base, but I took it apart today because I was going to mod it for something else.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'll tell you, I've scaled stuff down. Like I've got some basic black. I found this thing, which I never did print the top for, but for a while there, I was playing some Star Army
Yeah,
5150,
yeah,
and that's like some 15 millimeter stuff. So I had to really scale some things down. But yeah, I've made all kinds of terrain, and I even have somewhere. Oh, hang on, I've got these cool little. So I have these things that I call street lights because that's pretty much what they are. Let's see if I can find one real quick. But basically, it's 3D printed to look. Yeah, here's one. Just like a little outdoor street light that you might find in your neighborhood or down the parkway or something like that.
yeah.
And they're 3D printed, and I use these for storming because I had little bulbs that I need to get more of. But there are little bulbs that you just
Oh,
stick up
okay.
in here upside
Yeah,
down and turn them on. And I kind of use like a hammered metal primer for those.
yeah.
But those were cool because I had several of these that I could sit out. And man, it just looked really nice for terrain. We use that for Star Army, and Sarah's got Star Wars Legion, and so I did print out some little small Legion crates here
Oh, yeah.
using sort of a
And see, that's the thing.
metallic kind of.
I had a guy actually. We're playing Dungeon Crawl Classics at our local store a few months back, and the guy who taught me to play 40K was going around asking people. It's like, this was back. I mean, he taught me to play 40K. Oh, your wife's getting your attention.
Oh yeah, yeah. This was what I did for her. This is some Star Wars Legion, some buildings from Tatooine or
That looks
Dantooine, one of
really
the
good.
Uwings. Came out great, and then the top is
Comes off. Yeah.
detachable. What I
That's
didn't
cool.
like though is I found out this top is solid.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was going to be like a hollow dome, and I was like, dang, no wonder that took so long. That's. I mean, there's infill in there, of course, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's not hollow like I thought it was going to be looking at the file.
Well, I'll tell you, learning to modify files as well. If you go to Tinkercad, it's a free. It's ran by Autodesk, and it's a free website where you can actually do it all in a web browser. So what you could do is take that file and upload it to Tinkercad, and then just print or just create a hollow sphere to go up in there, and then you can export the file again. And it'll have the hollow sphere in it, but you'll probably have to use supports depending on how the angle is.
Yeah.
If you shouldn't
I
with the
mean, I
sphere,
do
you shouldn't have
have
to.
no, I do have the like free version or the free license to use rather Autodesk. What is
The
it
Fusion
called?
360.
Autodesk Fusion 360.
Yeah, but it's more complicated than
It is.
Tinkercad.
Yeah, there's a
So
I was like I was lost. I played around with it for a while and I didn't make anything. I couldn't. I mean, look, man, my design skills on the computer are like Microsoft Paint.
yeah, well, I mean, heck, I mean, it takes a while, but I mean, I've developed like a lot of dice towers and stuff in Tinkercad that I've sold. Oh, wait, I didn't say that. Anyway, I've 3D printed them for people before, and so I mean, for me, it's good for if I have to like make something that's utilitarian. It works great. But I've got people now that I'm like, hey, can you do this for me? And they'll build stuff for me out like that and things. I have access to people like that now, especially through the maker community. You'll get there to a point where there'll be people just go, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. Some people are like, yeah, pay me and give me $5, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So, but I mean, it's fun. It's addictive. You're going to spend so much money in plastic, and
Oh
and
yeah,
that's
man.
another thing.
There are people that are like, oh, anybody got bulk deals on filament? And I was like, oh, do you run a business? Or I mean, it's COVID-19, so I thought,
Yeah,
are people printing face masks? Like, no, no, I'm just regular guy, just printing stuff. These people are buying like,
so
oh, hey, look, I got this deal on 12 rolls of filament. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, I bought two in the last month and a half. Yeah.
Well, when ramping up for stuff like Gen Con, I'd have to print out a lot of dice towers, and so I would. Okay, so I used to be addicted to buying cheap Chinese filament on eBay, and this stuff. If you watch the prices, and I would check the prices like every day. So sometimes it would be $30 a roll. Sometimes it would drop to like $7 a roll.
Wow.
And so I would just sit there, and I didn't care what color it was because I was going to paint them. So all of a sudden, like it would just drop $7 a roll. I buy 10 rolls. I'm out $70. I'm paying. That's 3 rolls of filament now for me because I'm buying it from the. I try to stick with a brand called 3D Solutions. They've
Yeah,
got
I've
a
got some
and
filament from them. They're really good.
oh yeah, and I almost always either stay with their black or their metallic silver. The thing that I like about them, first of all, they got the thing that you need to pay attention to on your filament is the accuracy. So a lot of the cheaper filaments are 0.05 plus or minus accuracy. This stuff is usually 0.03, I believe, and that's the width of the filament as far as discrepancy as it goes across. So what you're supposed to do when you get a new roll of filament is you're supposed to measure it and like pull out about a foot of it, measure it in about 10 spots, write down that, get the average. If it's less than this is how I normally do it. If it's less than 1.75 millimeters, then you up your flow rate. If it's more, then you lower your flow rate. And that not a lot. Just we're talking like a percent. And so, but that lets you know how much plastic it's going to be churning through because it's expecting 1.75 millimeters of plastic every millimeter it pushes in. You got to figure all that. So you got into the game before. I mean, after we had to do all the hard work. And what I mean
Yeah,
by
yeah. I
that,
just got my printer maybe a year ago, I guess. Year and a
well,
couple months, something like that.
we used to have to like when you would replace a belt or you would have to change something out or change the tension of your belt. We would have to go in, print a calibration cube, measure the calibration cube, go and pull up the H code that we had in the that we pushed through to the board, figure out what our steps per millimeter are, take and figure that out now with the new measurements, print another one, keep doing that until we're exactly 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters. And that would be take like 4 or 5 calibration cubes of us
Wow.
printing, measure it, do the math, put it back in there. And now they're just so usually the belt quality is so good and the belts usually come pre-measured and everything like that you don't have to do that. Like the last two filament printers I bought, I didn't have to do that. They were spot on straight out of the box after I put them together. I mean, and you get used to knowing the tensions and things like that on your belts and stuff too. That's probably the biggest takeaway is always that. Plus for me, replace your bearings. Get rid of those bearings out of that printer and put in some of those polymer IGUS bearings that are self lubricating. They're so much quieter. Just want to
Yeah,
tell you
I've
that.
got some had a friend of mine that print out some dampeners for the rear end there that have made it a lot better. I don't even, this might be some cheap stuff. I just realized I don't know what this brand is.
I'll tell you, I prefer opaque plastic to clear plastic. It just prints better for me.
I have made some adjustments. I will tell you that I have found that sometimes the shiny silkier stuff requires some
Hotter temps.
yeah, it requires a little bit hotter temps because I've noticed, especially if I don't have the bed temp turned up enough. But the problem I ran into then is when I've used some of this other stuff that's a little bit clearer, or the translucent stuff, man, those higher temps, that stuff is hard to get off the bed. If it wasn't for the fact that I've got the upgraded yellow springs, I'd probably have had to re-level the last time that I printed something because I found the hard way, man. I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, I have a whole set of, besides the little scraper that originally came with it, I have like a set of all these little. I mean, it looks like I could do dentistry work or something here,
I
but
would. So you're having a hard time getting your stuff off the bed,
I was then because it was recently, actually in the last week. It was the first time that I had made that switch
or is your
in
stuff
in
looking
that
squished at the
direction.
bottom?
Do what?
Are your prints looking kind of the first few layers kind of squished together?
No, they were looking good. It was just for some reason it was just really just when I had those higher temps for the
Yeah.
bed and I used those higher temps on that translucent stuff, it just was super on there, man. I mean, I really had to fight it to get it off compared to
So
the silky stuff.
the best upgrade you'll ever get on that printer is to replace the bed with a spring steel bed that's magnetically clamped on and has a PEI sheet on it. So the PEI, anything will stick to PEI as long as you keep it clean. So you don't have to put hairspray down or anything like that, or glue stick or painter's tape. The But the spring steel. So when I print something and I get it off the bed, all I do is get it off, bend it, and it pops right off, and I slap it back on there and start printing it.
Yeah, I had one of those magnetic beds for a while. I've got the heated glass one now.
Yeah.
And I mean,
I
honestly, I don't know. I've never had issues. I mean, I know some people that are in these things on Facebook, these groups, and they're just constantly every other day there's somebody asking like, "What do you guys recommend for adhesion problems?" And I mean, I've never had problems getting something to stick as long as my bed was leveled and my temps were right. I mean,
well, I
I've
did
never
when I
used
first started
hairspray
printing.
or a glue stick or any of that
Yeah.
crazy stuff.
So when I first started printing, the first printer I had was it didn't have a heated bed at all, and sorry, I had to get a little bit more comfortable. The So it came with these sheets of painter's tape. Now realize my bed was 80 millimeters by 80 millimeters. So I was like so excited. I was the first one of all my friends to have this printer, and so it used that painter's tape, and then they recommended to put down purple glue stick if you had any problems. And I never really had until I tried the ABS with it. And I wanted ABS to print so bad because it was so cheap, and you could hit it with acetone, and it looked so nice. And I hated it. It stunk so bad, and it would never stick
Yeah, I've
right.
heard a lot of stories about the smell on the.
Gosh, it's horrible. And then, but yeah, and I print a lot of DOS towers, so that's usually what I end up printing out a lot of is DOS towers and the tiles and stuff. So, but yeah, it wasn't great at all. But that was weird. Um, but it went widescreen.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
I'm about to. So I mean, this is what I've got. So what I've got here, I'm gonna share my screen here.
if I do have problems with it sticking, it's hairspray. Is what I'll.
So this is basically this is what like an Ender 3 Pro runs right now,
Yeah.
and I think I paid. I don't think it was this. I know it wasn't this much. Definitely didn't pay over $300 for. Well, I would never buy something on Amazon with it ready to. And I have no idea
Yeah.
what that. I do not know what that's about. Okay. Um,
It's probably
but
he
there's
probably got a bad rating because his price is so high.
yeah, that one person that's like, oh, we don't like you. But I think I paid around 250 maybe. Maybe a little less. And of course, I got on Amazon because of the free shipping. And I mean, right now there's a big push from Amazon. They're prioritizing like essential stuff. I mean, like I ordered some filament the other day.
Filament's
That
essential.
Galaxy Red stuff that I have, and it ended up. It actually came a day early, but it was still like a week in a day from the day that I ordered.
Well,
And
scientific and industrial is considered essential under Amazon right now, and that's when you make sure you buy your printer, filament, make sure it's listed as under scientific and stuff, and they'll prioritize it.
really, I did not know.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a neat trick.
because
I will have to
because
do
a
that.
lot of people are doing it for the
The face mask, yeah.
face mask. So I know it seems pretty bad. We're printing miniatures and stuff. I've been printing headbands too, so I've been printing those ear sabers. So that's what the E16 has been doing for a while. Is I've gotten that down to where I can throw in some of those, and me and a buddy have been printing those out to send to a hospital down in Florida. So, but
Man,
yeah, I
that's
don't
cool.
see why somebody hasn't. Oh, and I've been working on this. She'll get a kick out of this, and I do this when I have extra filament and time.
That's
I am
great.
going to build me a stormtrooper helmet. You remember that Dragon Con where I went looking for a stormtrooper helmet and could never
Yes.
find one? I'm
Never did find it.
going
Wow.
to get one. So, and this was some silky rainbow filament.
Man, yeah, that stuff. I've seen people make these. I've seen some stuff, man. I have seen prints where, I mean, look, I'm at the point now where something's going to take me 8 hours. I'm like, um, we can do that in standard quality. That's okay, and
Yeah,
and we'll
and
print it this weekend when I'm home to keep an eye on it. And
so
there's
have you?
people that are like, yeah, I printed this out in like 7 days. I'm like, what?
So what are you painting with right now, as far as like
Um,
your stuff goes?
we're pretty much. I mean, we have a good bit of Citadel paint just because we've kind of been able to get some really great deals on it, kind of secondhand. But we've
You're painting 3D printed stuff in Citadel.
but we've also got some really good stuff from Army Painter.
No, no, not even that. I'm gonna recommend a brand that sticks to it. You because you don't need the level of of pigment in that because you're not going detailed enough. Craft Smart.
Oh,
Yes, I primer 3D printed stuff in this, and it primers fine. Like I brush primer a lot of it because um, it's something about 3D prints is when you air prime it with a rattle can, it doesn't get in the deep recesses very well. So I always end up brush priming it anyway. But black brush priming this stuff works great.
I
For
kind of had some issues with Rebel Minis doing that, but we've also got some stuff. We are official ambassadors of a really cool game, and it is called Free Blades. And
okay,
Free Blades, one of the neat things about that game is that they mix in, um, or not mix in, but they actually have an RPG as well as a miniature game. And you could, it's designed in such a way that you could transfer your character from one to the other if you wanted to,
yeah, you
which
got
is
me
really
looking
kind
at
of
it.
neat.
Thanks, Lee. I gotta Google it now.
Let's see.
But I was also going to tell you a good paint that a lot of people don't think about when you're doing little miniatures as well is Reaper. I just got this one because I wanted the case mainly and the paint that came in it. So, and I'm designing this right here. I'm designing a paint case that I could take anywhere, and it's my emergency paint kit. So it's going to unfold in out of this. It's going to have my paint. It's going to have a light built into the case. All the tools I need to paint, and I can just take it anywhere and just have a couple miniatures with me and be like, I'm ready to go. Let's paint, guys.
Yeah, I've got to carry like a smaller tote that we picked up at Hobby Lobby that we do for that, but it's a little cumbersome. And of course, I don't really have. I mean, I think I've got the little helping hands with the alligator clips and the light, but
Yeah.
that's really about it. And sometimes I can't really fit that in there with everything. So that's one of those things that we're kind of working on. But Sarah's been doing some commission work. And I mean, I'll be honest, man, I haven't sat down and actually finished painting something in like forever. The last time that there was a spruce sale from Warlord Games, I bought a box or two of some colonial infantry. Yeah, I got colonial infantry and then I've got like a box or two of the militia, and I've gotten maybe half a box worth of those guys primed, and I've got one or two semi-painted. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
I
think
got
these.
a buddy of mine that he's got the British. So I was like, well, I'll get the colonial, because America,
America.
America. But man, it's just so bad. But Sarah though, and of course, like if I ever get some of the artwork her brother's done, I'll have to show you. So I mean, there's that vein that runs in that family, I guess, of creative, artistic ability. I guess I'm just too analytical, and then my ADD kicks in, and I'm gone. Sit
Oh,
down to paint something for 5 seconds, like, wow, that was great. I made some progress. All right,
well, it helps me, and painting helps me just to calm down. And so, like in the evenings, this is what I do to relax. Is I'll bust out something and paint it, and I'll do different things depending on the level of the miniature, how I want it to look. Like sometimes I'll challenge myself, let's get this done in a night, or let's see how well I can do this miniature. And it doesn't stress me out. The only time I get stressed out is if I'm doing a paint job for somebody, and I'm just like, oh, I don't want to have to deal with this. so,
yeah.
so
Sarah's done a few different commissioned paintings for people and stuff, and um, the big thing I think that really did it was just the work that she did on her Star Wars Legion folks. That's what really caught the eye of a few different people, and then someone was like, well, because I mean, look, when you play this thing long enough, you've always got unpainted minis.
yeah,
So I mean, if you have a little extra money laying around to go along with those extra minis that are unpainted, and you know someone that's good enough and is willing to work with you, then um, it's a win-win. You're like, all right, look, I'm getting some minis painted finally, even if it's not me doing it. That's why I joke with people. That's my live-in painter. But the problem is she's always so busy with her own stuff or the commissions that I'm like, hey, hon, do you have time to help me paint some of these things? We do have a two-player starter set for Free Blades, which is like a miniature combat game. I love that they have. One of the fun things about that game is they always reward crits, which is how I love it, man. You can roll a crit on the initiative roll even, and there's a thing for that, like how that plays out. I love it. Um, I think for something that's not really an RPG per se, it uses so many different variations of dice. Like I love it, and you can do a campaign style with it, and you can, as your characters upgrade, as they level up and you upgrade their abilities, you can kind of jump up on some things from rolling like a D10 to
yeah,
like a D12 or a D14. But they're great quality metal minis. I've got one faction put together that I need to prime. I've got to get the other one together so that once we start meeting again for game nights and stuff, we can break that out, because we've got some really, really cool stuff that we can do for folks, like a copy of the Living Rule Book and some other things. But it's just the fact that we get this free demo and we can just drop it out there on the table. We went to a small first time convention in South Carolina called Coastal Con, and they were there demoing the game, and they had two demos set up. They had the smaller one, and then they had this bigger one, and they're like, well, we got this smaller one that just takes about like 10-15 minutes, or we've got this, like, I think it had like 30 minutes or maybe an hour. I think it was like 30 minutes. There's other one 30 minutes, and I was like, well, we've been playing games for a little while. I think we can handle a full-on demo. I was like, shouldn't be no problem. I've done all kinds of gaming. Um, and we sat down to play it, and I was just enthralled, man. I was just so taken by how fun it was. I lost, man. She beat me because I misunderstood what the objective was, and she beat
that's
me
what
pretty
happened to
bad.
me.
But I loved it, man. I had so much fun with that game. I could not believe it. And then they're like, well, hey, do you guys want to be like ambassadors for it? Be like questers. We give you the rules and the two factions and everything, the dice and everything you need. Um, and we ask that you take, we got some cool T-shirts too, and so we just ask that you demo it at least once a quarter, Like once a quarter. I'm like, we can probably get away with doing it like once a month. Are you kidding me? So they do it once a quarter, and take pictures and share them and stuff. And we have a special discount code that we get to use once every time we demo the game, and we can get other people a discount and all this fun stuff. But it's just really cool. I mean, once we really actually start playing it and get it out regularly, I'm looking forward to being able to expand on our collection. And of course, it's a chance to do some more terrain. But
So show me the dice that they use. Could you show this to me?
yeah, let me see. I think I've got it
See,
around here. So
people, what Lee didn't tell you is that I'm obsessed with dice, and I can usually tell who's the dice manufacturer is by the type of dice they are.
I mean, they're definitely nothing fancy. I've been known to, not that necessarily fanciness reflects quality, but I'm all about the shiny. I mean, that's why my PC's got all the dang RGB. I mean, look at my wife's PC behind me. I mean, the lights, colors, stuff. So yeah, we've got it. Basically, it's let's see here. So we've got it like this, basically.
Okay, so those dice they are made by a company called Impact Miniatures. Okay, they are out of Indiana. They're right outside of Indianapolis, about an hour. The guy who owns that company is named Tom Anders, and Tom Anders is the guy that kept Blood Bowl alive for the years that Citadel did not do anything with it. And he he was the guy that kept the living rulebook going and all that. When they made the video games, they consulted him. You can still buy miniatures that he designed for it and stuff like that. But those dice are the same dice that are used to play Dungeon Crawl Classics and Mutant Crawl Classics with.
I mean, dude, it's a D30. You know what I mean? Come
Dude,
on, can you imagine?
He's got D3s, D4s, D5s, D6s, D7s, D8s, D9s, D10s.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
the funny thing. That's how Free Blades is, because you're doing all these other just just every D you can imagine. It's just like there were some that I'm like, wait, I'm gonna roll a what?
Yeah, but yeah, Tom's a pretty nice guy, and his son's a miniature painter as well. So he does the all those other. Sorry, I just saw you said dice, and I can tell you I'll tell you something funny. I helped design those dice.
Really?
So
wow.
Let me tell you how we did it. You'll learn this in 3D printing. It's called floating point numbers. Not floating point numbers. Crap. So it's got to deal with floating points. So you can either render your object. Sorry, I do have paint all over my hands where I've been working with paint today. You can either render your object like you do with most of the applications that you use, or you can set each point of the object. So, and the way we did it was Matthew, the guy who was the head designer, and I didn't design anything intentionally. So, this is how he did it. He wrote a computer algorithm that would work over distributed computing. And what we would do is we would just put in the number of sides that we wanted our dice to have, and we all would churn out those dice as far as like we would figure out the points, and then he would take the points that were in the file, and then he would load that up in his computer and convert that to a 3D model, and then from there he would add the numbers to the faces.
Wow.
And so, and I helped with those, but then I started going crazy and I said I want a D512, and it ran for 3 weeks straight and couldn't figure out the sides. And so, but I helped do that for the Kickstarter Dice of Unusual Sizes, where he has all the way up to D30, every size up to D30. And I have that set in glow in the dark.
Oh man! Oh, there you go. Some more.
Oh, I'll show you something else I've been working on, and you can see that set of dice. Hold on. You can hear this rattle. Okay, so I have a friend. His wife has MS, and she's a gamer. And so one of the things you lose as a gamer is manual dexterity. And I also have another friend who is into painting miniatures who has Parkinson's, early onset Parkinson's. So I've been designing dice trays, right? That this is my first prototype. I hadn't done this. This is completely 3D printed. The next one will be made out of wood. I have access to an X carve now.
Oh.
So, but I want to make a dice tray, and nobody steal my idea because I'm gonna kickstart this, and then the money is going to go to cool things for me. So anyway, so they can't get their fingers in to pinch stuff out. So the concept with this tray is that these are spheres instead of like little just insets. It's just a sphere instead of something more sided like a hexagon. So when they go to get their dice out, all they have to do is scoop it out like that. Okay. And so what this also does is you holds all the dice I need to play a full game of an RPG. I have a dice rolling area and a place for my pencils. So and it's magnetically held, but this one the magnets aren't strong enough yet, so to hold it together. So I've got to look at that. And so, but these are the dice of unusual shapes and sizes from Tom. These are the glow in the dark
Oh
set.
wow.
So, and these were actually released. The glow in the dark set was done for Mutant Crawl Classics, and so I have that for that. But and then of course these are the dice I usually use for D&D. Norse Foundry, they're gold. So, but that with those black ones and stuff. But so this is what I carry with me when I go play an RPG. I say D&D, but I don't play D&D hardly anymore unless it's second edition. And I kind of shy away from fifth edition now, and I play mostly second edition or Troll Lords, Castles and Crusades, which is the actual what I would consider second edition Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm not going to say that.
I was gonna say, yeah, we're actually about to start on a weekend here, a Star Trek RPG actually with a friend of mine.
From Modiphius?
Yeah. It's gonna be one? Like TNG Star Trek era.
Okay, but is it the game from the Modiphius Star Trek rules?
Let me see, because he sent me the rules actually earlier. I don't remember.
Is it the one from that he got from Bundle of Holding?
It is. That's not it. That's the character creation sheet. The core rule book. Let's see. It is
Modiphius.
Star Trek Adventures.
Yep, it's Modiphius. It's a 2D20 system.
Yeah, that'll be great.
I got the rules for Conan. It uses the same system, so. But no, now I'll be starting. I'll just let you know. Hopefully this Wednesday will be my first one, but it'll be. I'll have my. I'll be on Twitch at Troll Lord Games' Twitch stream, and I'll be doing miniature painting. I'm going to do. I'm kind of calling it the lazy painter. Showing how you can make tabletop ready miniatures and not have to worry about a lot of stuff and just to get it out on the table.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you'll when we get done, if you'll like Facebook message me the link to his stream, and when you're gonna do it, and I'll definitely repost that in the video when I upload this, because that'll be awesome, man. We've got, gosh, the Waycross gaming community has we've got a pretty good, strong D&D group. We've got a bunch of Magic players. We've got, and I mean, our biggest thing is we just try to encourage people to show up and play. We do our game nights. We try to tell people to just, don't worry about whether you have the game already or if you know how to play it, but we have a lot of people that have really been starting to take those next steps. So they say, hey, I've been coming out to game night for a while. I've been playing this one game or this miniatures game. Hey, I really like it. I think I want to kind of maybe buy some for this, So, but, as we all know, sometimes our ambition can and our plans can sometimes outpace our skills. so yeah, I mean that'll be great, man. Anything that just gives people more exposure to some different ideas on how they can get that out there, because the last thing we want is for somebody to be like, well, I just can't do anything right with minis, so I'm just not going to bother because I can't get good
Nah,
quality.
so I run it, and I haven't done a lot with it lately. I will tell you, I suffer from generalized depression, which makes me not want to do a lot of things online. Being online depresses me. Just in general, dealing with all that garbage. But no, I do suffer from actual depression, and so I have a Facebook group called EMP Miniatures, or It's Empowered Miniature Painters, and so I see a lot of times on places like Reddit and stuff where people will, they might have a disability or something holding them back, and they might paint something and show it off. And somebody's like, "Why don't you pay somebody to paint? That looks horrible," and all these things. And so, like, I've got people in that group that have issues with carpal tunnel, issues with MS, issues with Parkinson's, and they are all trying to paint miniatures. Okay, and so like the thing I do with that is we just encourage people, like, "Oh man, that's great, keep it up, I love it," and then I try to come up with ways that would make it easier for them to paint. And one of the newest ways that I found that it's easier for people to paint is with the Citadel contrast paints. And so with the contrast paints, you got to be careful though, because there will be cleanup on it, but like you prime that thing with the two primers, whichever one you need, and then you just slather it on.
Yeah, Sarah's done that on a couple of her Legion minis, and she's loved it, man. It was really just really interesting.
The only thing I don't like about the contrast paints is that they're expensive. Now, contrast itself, it's actually, you can make it. I'll show you how real quick. All right. So this stuff here is Liquitex Glaze Medium. Okay. And contrast painting is actually something we've been doing this for a long time. Okay. And so, but they've done something new with it with Citadel, and they've changed the formula around a bit. But this is pretty much it. Take this stuff, and it's 50% this, 50% water. Mix it down, and then you add your paint till you get enough paint in it. Okay, and it behaves just like the contrast. The only thing is this will be shiny when you're done, and you just have to hit it with a matte varnish. But what we use this for is we do a process called zenithal highlighting. I don't know if you know exactly what that is. So I'll paint this miniature here, primer it black. Gosh, man, that's really widened out. I'm gonna have to work on that. So I'll paint it black, right, all the way. Make sure the bottom is black, like up from, and then I'll hit it straight on with some gray. Okay, and then I'll hit it straight down with white. So you've got light shining down from the top. That's called a zenithal highlight. So if you looked underneath it, everything underneath is still black, and everything forward is gray, and everything is white. So when you start with the glaze, then you can take the glaze and just paint over that, and the glaze is so thin, it makes it almost, it does exactly what the contrast paints do, but because we're working with that zenithal highlight, it actually makes it more dynamic.
Yeah,
And
because you've got the color range, or the
yeah,
tone range for your
yeah,
colors.
and when you're done with a glaze, half the time, and I use glazes primarily myself for clothing like capes and stuff because it's great for capes. But the when you're done, it didn't take a lot. You spend more time priming, and there's another process also that works great with this called underpainting. Okay, you do the zenithal highlight, right? Then you let that dry. Then you wash it in something like nun oil, okay, and get it down in the recesses. Then you come back over it like you would a miniature after you painted it, and did a nun oil wash. And you would layer. The Citadel process is base coat, wash, than your layers. Okay, so then the layers will clean up the big flat areas on your miniature that got stained with the wash. So what you're doing with this is that you're going to take and do all that, but you're doing it all in black and white. All right. So you come back through after you do the wash and you fix all the areas that need to be white, and then you can come through with the dry brush with white paint and do all that. And when all that dries, then you turn back around and glaze it. And so you've already got your highlights, you've got your shadowing, and it underpainting is like taking zenithal highlighting to the next level. Um, and for some people, it's easier.
Hmm.
Um, it's something to play around with, and Sarah might want to play with it. I remember when she was first getting into painting, and she would send me messages, and now
So we
she
are
she's quit. She's quit
yeah,
this.
she's man, she does stuff. I'm telling you, I'm married well. That's all I can say. But we're just about out of time for this
Oh man.
episode. So now, don't you have? Am I correct me if I'm wrong? Don't you have like a web store or something? Because I know you said you sell
Yeah,
some
I used
towers and some
to,
things.
and I don't do that hardly anymore. What I mainly do right now is for side hustle, because my day job, I'm a software developer. But my side hustle is I make silicone molds. Um, for dice. And I've got masters that people will sometimes order a set of master silicone molds, and I make the molds for it on Etsy. But I mean, it's nothing big deal about that. I mean, I am working on recreating the original Dungeons and Dragons dice. So,
Well, you'll get a
but
lot of attention there.
oh,
Yeah.
I know. But no, I mean, it's don't worry about that. Just the thing I would point out is look at Troll Lord Games. They make a couple of games. They make one called Castles and Crusades, as I was talking about earlier. It's not a high fantasy game. But it's more that rugged, earthy feeling RPG. You're not like overpowered or anything like that, like you would be in fifth edition. But you're more like you're a common person starting out in a world of high adventure. And then they also make another one called Amazing Adventures, which is a more of a pulp magazine type feel to it, doing this type of detective stories. And then they just released a new one. It's actually a re-release of one for kids, and it's based on their Siege engine, which is the what Castles and Crusades and Amazing Adventures use, and it's called the Harvesters, and it's pretty much like playing Castles and Crusades, but your animals instead, like your ferrets and weasels and stuff. They're a really good company, and I just want to give them a shout out because they're the owner is I believe he's an ex-veteran, or he's a veteran, not ex-veteran, but like they do a lot of stuff for the Wounded Warrior Project and things like that. And I know that if you're active military, they do send you stuff, especially if you're deployed. They send you
And this
books and
was
things.
what now? This was the Troll Lord
Troll
games.
Troller Games, yeah, and
Okay.
that's who I'll will be hosting my web stream is them. And also I do a few things on the side for them as well, like their fantasy grounds. I help build their modules, and if they have any programming questions and stuff like that, I help them out and things. I don't get paid for any of that. I just do it because I like them and they're really good guys. So,
Well, that's awesome, man. Hey, it is great to catch up. It's been a while, probably been too long. Um,
oh, I know. I'm gonna
yeah.
I'm gonna chew your ear off after we get off this. By the way,
Well, I actually have to. I have some activity going on over there. I need to look at. We've got cats going wild here. I don't know what's. I'm hearing rumblings.
mm,
So I might go sure the house is not falling down. But yeah, man, I will post the links to those to Troll Lord games in there for sure because that's awesome. But man, I appreciate it. Hopefully this becomes sort of a series, and we'll definitely have to have you back on
oh
again
yeah,
because we spent a lot of time on 3D printing. We'll have to really go more in depth on painting because I have some cool
dude,
stuff
I
I'll be
could
able to show you.
talk for days on painting.
Yeah.
So I mean,
But yeah, man, it is always awesome, and if you ever start a new project or end up involved in anything else in the future, shoot me a link and I'll be sure to
Well,
share it out to our group. So,
all right. Thanks, man.
all right, man. Awesome. Catch you later. Oh, yeah. And by the way, how's your dog?
I got we got Brody still, and we hadn't talked in a while. We got a new one, probably about a month ago.
Oh, yeah.
She's a puppy. She's a Boston Terrier. We I wouldn't say rescued her, but like the people that got her found out that they were allergic to her and they needed to give her home real
Ah,
quick. And so
yeah. I
like,
think, did you post pictures? I think, I don't know. Sarah is a big Boston Terrier fan, and
I think I may have
she's
posted
starting
a
to kind of
couple.
win me over.
So no, so this one, she's a okay. So there's two primary colors of the Boston Terriers. You got your tuxedo and you got your seal. And she is not really a seal. She's mostly brown and white. And what's kind of rare about that is most Boston Terriers have a black nose, no matter if they're seal or black and white. But her nose is brown and white.
Wow.
And we've got full papers on her, and she's registered and everything. So I mean, she's actual Boston Terrier. She's meaner than tarnation, though. I mean, she's a puppy, so she's still learning
Yeah.
social norms. But like, she don't want to be picked up. She'll start growling and snapping at people. And she's bit me a couple times, and we're trying to break her of it by putting her in timeout. It's something that works for kids and dogs. So
It does.
yeah, but Boston Terriers are great. And Brody, if you remember, he was half Boston Terrier. Well,
Yeah,
he still
that's right.
is. So, but he's doing great. He doesn't like her at all.
Oh no. Well,
So
we have two cats and a dog.
yeah,
It was just my Maine Coon Wi-Fi for a while. We moved in
yeah.
here, but then we got the dog, and he still kind of looks like when the dog enters the room, or if the dog comes by the couch, the cat still kind of looks at him like, "Why have you let this filthy animal in here? This lower life form." Um, but we also have a tuxedo kitten,
Yeah.
and our dog and that kitten, since he's a puppy, they play. They run around all over, chase each other. It's great. Our adult cat, our Maine Coon, he just kind of lays there like, "What are you guys doing? That's nice. I'm gonna go take a nap." You know, what I mean, just kind of. But yeah, it's been a trip with him when we added the dog, and then when we added the tuxedo kitten, and just yeah. So it's been fun.
Yeah, I mean, I love them. So I'm not really a cat person anymore. We got rid of our cats. No, we didn't really get rid of them. They one of them got hit by a car, and
Oh,
then another one ran off. Got out of the house, ran off, and we couldn't find her. And then the last one, he didn't make it. So
hmm.
that we had them for a while, and we took care of them. And I just told my family, no more cats. I'm done with them. I'm tired of everything smelling like ammonia. So stick with the dogs. Stay with the dogs. They
Awesome.
go outside to use the bathroom. So,
All right, man. We'll have a good
uh,
one. And like I said, we'll have to get you back on here at some point again, too, because I know we definitely have some painting ground that we can cover there for
uh,
sure. So
awesome, man. Cool beans.
awesome. Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks.